Good news for those of you looking to take the CPA exam. The National Association of State Boards of Accountancy just proved an update to the exam. They have moved the 18-month rolling period for you to pass all 4 sections of the exam from 18 months to 30 months. You now have 30 months after passing the first part of the CPA exam to get the additional 4 sections of the exam completed on a rolling basis. This means so much for those of you out there who are looking to get all 4 sections of the exam completed, and maybe you're working a job or you have other responsibilities and it's tight on you to try to fit all 4 sections of the exam into that 18-month window. Well, they thought about it, they've heard you, and now they have approved to extend that window from 18 months to 30 months. And we're going to get into the publication and what you need to know to take advantage of this new update to the CPA exam. The National Association of the State Boards of Accountancy announces the adoption of an eagerly anticipated amendment to the Uniform Accountancy Act model rules pertaining to the Uniform CPA exam. So the Uniform Accountancy Act is an act that is, or basically a regulation that is governing how all 55 states in the United States are working together to make the CPA exam uniform, meaning whatever state you're in and you want to become a CPA, when you take that CPA exam, it's the same exam in Alaska as it is in Montana or Georgia or wherever it is you decide to go and take the exam. So that these regulations kind of govern how they distribute the exam to make sure that everyone is taking the same exam when they go to demonstrate that they want to be a CPA. And what has happened is that the NASBA has worked on updates to this act specifically for the requirement that you have to have 18 months after you pass your first section in order to successfully pass all 4 sections of the CPA exam. So for nearly 20 years, and this is for 20 years, it's been this way since the relaunch of the computer-based exam in early 2004. So that means before 2004, you had to take a paper exam, and from what I can recall, that exam was pretty intense because you had to have one day when you went in and took all 4 sections of the exam. Just imagine the nightmare there, right? But then they went to a computer-based exam, which meant you could take a section at a time based on when you were ready. So right now, most people will take one section and then there's windows, right? So you take a section and then there's like a 3-month window. 1 month is off because that's generally when the testing results for the previous 2 months are being evaluated so that they can release scores and then you can see who passed. So typically you have like 2 months and then you have 1 month off, right? Where you cannot take the exam. So that's still the same. But what happens is, for anyone who takes the exam for the first time, they pass the exam. Now they have 18 months to get the additional 3 sections of the exam done. And 18 months is a reasonable amount of time, and I think that's why it's been around for so long, because most people felt comfortable with getting the 4 sections done within that 18-month window. So now they made changes to that 18-month window and they've made it 30 months, and we're going to get into why. So it says, for nearly 20 years since the launch of the computer-based exam in early 2004, candidates have had 18 months from the date of passing the first section of the exam to complete the remaining 3 sections without losing credit. And that's called the conditioning rule. The conditioning rule is when you pass one, you have 18 months to get all 4, and if you don't do all 4 within 18 months, you're going to lose that first section. So that's why there's some pressure after you pass the first exam, because now the time clock is on, right? You've got to make sure you get the other 3 done within 18 months, or you're going to lose that first section. And just imagine, especially if that section is like FARC, right? Financial Accounting and Reporting. You put all that studying, all that work in, you took it, you finally got it done, you got that pass, right? But if you don't get it done within an 18-month window, you lose that first section and you have to take it all over again just to say you can pass the CPA exam. That's a nightmare, right? So you don't want that to happen to you. So that's called the conditioning rule. All 55 states have adopted that rule. That's just the way it's been for the last 20 years. But with the disruptions of COVID-19, All right, reduction of candidates in the pipeline, and the increased workload of firms, right? There has been an increased interest to take that from 18 months to a longer period to give people more time, because these are real situations that people are dealing with from an economic standpoint, and it's impacting their ability to actually stay and get the test done within that 18-month window. I mean, let's just imagine we were all quarantined and we had the pandemic, so that already created a lot of complications with people work life, home life. So trying to add on this intense exam, right? The studying process, to getting out of the house, to taking the exam, and all of the things that are required to get the exam done, that has made that 18-month window feel a lot shorter. So they've been hearing about the complications and challenges, and what they decided to do is change this. So on April 21st in 2023, NASBA's Board of Directors voted to adopt an amendment to the UAA, right, the Uniform Accountancy Act, Model Rule 5.7. The amendment increases the length of the conditional credit from 18 months to 30 months. From 18 months to 30 months, based on calculations of the conditional credit for exam sections passed on the date that the scores are released. It adds descriptive language to provide greater clarity for the Board of Accountancy. So it just has some other things in it, but the major thing is that they have approved it. They've approved it to go from 18 months to 30 months. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean immediately you have 30 months? It does not mean that you immediately have 30 months. So there's some more things to consider here. So there's no immediate effect at the state board rules, right? As membership organizations of the 55 U.S. Board of Accountancy, NASBA, through its Uniform Accountancy Act Committee, provides the model rules as recommendations to boards for adoption, whereby uniform adoption is encouraged, okay? As such, each individual board may consider the amendment of Model Rule 5-7 and, if so choose, commence a process to change the rules at the state level, okay? So current exam candidates remain under existing rules until and if and when the board to which they applied makes the changes. So let's summarize that. Although it's been approved by the Board of Directors of the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy, NASBA, although it's been approved, it's only been approved for the state boards to be able to now adopt and implement in their state. So once the state boards adopt it as truth for them, as the standard, then that's when it's going to apply to you. So if you're in Georgia, or if you're in Alabama, or if you're in New York, although NASBA's board has approved this change, it's not applicable to you until you go and find out whether your state board has also adopted the change in the state. So that's homework for you if you're trying to figure out whether this rule change has actually applied to you. Okay? And I would imagine that most states are going to adopt this, because it's going to create a lot more opportunity for people to pass the CPA exam. But make sure that you do your research to figure it out, and we'll do some research on the channel as well to see if we can find where they're maybe showing who's adopted it and who hasn't. But this is great news, because the state boards cannot adopt the change unless it's approved at the national board level. So that's the big change. The board at the national level, the governing body, has said, yes, we're going to change it from 18 months to 30 months. Now the state boards, the local state level, have the ability to go ahead and adopt that at a state level, which I would imagine is going to be happening pretty rapidly. So the approved amendments cover granting credit requirements for sections passed on the CPA exam for those who wish to enter the CPA profession. The revised rule provides that once a candidate has successfully passed one section of the exam, they will be provided a rolling 30-month period to pass the remaining 3 sections of the exam. The exposure draft proposed a 6-month extension of the credit period to 24 months, but based on further consideration and input, the NASBA Board of Directors elected to approve 12-month extension to 30 months. So they're just being real understanding, okay? The initial proposal was 24 months, which would have been good, and I think a lot of people would have been happy about it. But they said, you know what? We really want to help people pass the exam. We're going to give them an additional 6 months. So kudos to them for doing that, because I think it's going to allow people to step back and have a little bit more time to breathe and to get things in order, and to really go ahead and plan to get all 4 sections of the exam passed. And if you're one of those people who is benefiting from this change, I just ask that you don't take advantage of it, okay? Because even though they can extend it to 30 days, it's all about your mind and how much dedication and focus you put on it, because 30 months can still pass by, right? If you're not focused on it. So there's a statement from the CEO here that says providing an additional year of conditional credits to CPA exam candidates for exam sections passed provides more flexibility to those seeking licensure as a CPA. The additional time also provides greater latitude to firms and candidates as they negotiate the demands of today's complex career environment. There's a lot happening in the world that people are trying to manage their careers, and they're trying to think about how to become CPAs, and giving them extra time is going to help them to manage all of that and make sure that they can plan appropriately to pass the exam with more time and not lose sections and feel frustrated because they've lost sections. So, in addition to the revisions of the exam, indicate that, revisions to the exam indicate that score delays may occur when significant updates are made to the exam content and structure. So that is also happening right now too. There's CPA evolution. And I gotta get a date on exactly when it's gonna be implemented if it's not already done so, but they're making changes because they also are making changes to the exam content and the structure, right? Content meaning the type of questions that are on the exam that they based on and that are relevant to making sure you demonstrate you're a CPA in the current marketplace. And then structure, that's going to be that breakup of BEC right now, right? They're not doing BEC anymore. You're going to do FAR, regulation, audit, and then you're going to pick one of 3 different exams that you want to take as specialized knowledge. So information technology, financial planning and budgeting, or something like that. It's like a financial reporting one. I'm just going off the top of my head here. And the other one is taxation. So that's a content and structure update. And they're saying because these organizations that are helping to evaluate the test results are still working through content and structure updates, there may be delays in when they can get results out and things like that. So giving more months will help with also making sure that people don't have their time taken advantage of as these organizations are working through these things. So on behalf of the NASBA Board of Directors, they're thanking the Uniform Accountancy Act Committee and the stakeholders. There were a lot of people involved who provided feedback to make sure to understand the interest in changing this rolling period from 18 months to 30 months. So that's what they're saying. They're just saying thank you there. But here's something that's very important to also understand. So it looks like they said for over 60 days, they had a comment period. They had 850 respondents providing input. They had people from the State Board of Accountancy, state CPA societies, CPA firms, licensed CPAs, educators, and students all contribute to making sure that this was the right move to change it from 18 months to 30 months. So they're saying thank you. But here's what is very important too. Not only just the change, which is great, but this is kind of a little hidden gem that's in here too that people need to understand. At the same April meeting, the NASBA Board of Directors expressed continued support for the development of a recommended policy for state board consideration that would allow the CPA exam candidates who lost credit because of the conditions beyond their control resulting from economic disruptions of the pandemic to come back into the process of completing the CPA exam and obtaining their license. So that's for those of you who are out there who were impacted by the pandemic, who were under quarantine, who could not go out to those prometric centers and take your test because of the factors that were outside. If you lost an exam section because of those factors, they are talking about those situations, and it sounds like they're working on some resolution factors to help people like that. It's not a definitive answer. If you were one of those people who lost an exam section because you couldn't make it to the testing center, it's not a definitive answer to say they're going to give you that exam section back right now. But who knows? They might say that's what they want to do. But I think they're saying that they're having those discussions. They've heard the complaints, and they know that it's something they have to have an opinion in a resolution too. So they're talking about that. The board also discussed developing additional pathways to allow candidates to achieve the 150-hour credit through academically qualified experience that could allow up to 30 hours of college credit. When I read that, I was like, wow, they are really hearing people in terms of what it takes to become a CPA. Now, let me explain what this means because I thought this was so important and so powerful at the end of this. When you graduate, typically when you graduate from your undergrad studies, that's how most people go down the path of getting the educational credit requirement for the CPA. When you are looking to be a CPA, you have to have 150 credit hours as received to actually check the box on that requirement for being a CPA. Now, most people, when they graduate from their undergrad and get their bachelor's degree, have somewhere, I want to say around 120 credit hours, and then they have to go to their master's program. They have to go to a master's program to get the additional 30 hours. And that's not exact for everybody, but that's typically how it works. Well, what they're saying is now they're considering switching the additional 30 hours from having to go back to school and pay for classes and get a degree just to get the 30-hour requirement, which can be expensive because we all know college is expensive. Instead of going that route, if you graduate from your undergrad and let's say you go work at a firm or you work at a CPA firm or you're working under a CPA, if you can get enough experience, they will give you the credit hours. So work experience will substitute the additional credit hours. So that means when you qualify to sit for the exam right after your undergrad, you can go pass the CPA exam, and instead of having to go to master's to get your additional credits to meet that requirement, if you're working, they are considering allowing your work experience to substitute 38 credit, to not substitute or to give you that the 30 hours of credit. So that's big, and that means a lot of people, because most of the time after you graduate after your undergrad, you're looking for a job, you get into work, and you're like, okay, great, like I'm actually getting work experience now, but none of that is counting toward that additional 30 hours, so you end up having to go back to school and go get your master's. They're considering making it so that your work experience will meet that additional requirements, which is going to help you to get all the boxes checked on becoming a CPA. So as we hear more about that, we'll do more videos on it, but I thought that was so major, and I think it's something that they should totally do because I think it's going to help a lot of people get certified and meet all those requirements. Okay, so that's the major update. Go do your homework, see if they've adopted it on your local state. If it's now an 18 to 30 month window, and if it is, just sit back and have some coffee or maybe some wine, and just be happy, breathe in it, but don't take advantage of it. Get to work, go and study, okay? But it's great news, and I think it's something that is going to really benefit a lot of people, right? And we will continue to keep you updated on all the things that are happening in the world of the CPA profession as we post more videos. And make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you're informed when we release new videos, so you can be up to date on what's going on out there with the CPA exam, with the accounting profession, with the CPA profession. We put a lot more out there. Leave your comments, okay? Leave your comments. If you want to get in contact with me, look in the comments below. There's a link there where you can get in touch with me. And keep studying, keep grinding, get to it. We are all dedicated. We are all getting it so we can become CPAs. So I will see you on the next video. Get to it, you future CPAs, you and current CPAs, and whoever out there is watching. I appreciate the support, and we'll see you next time.